We've looked at Aunt May and Doc Ock. We've looked at Green Goblin and MJ. Today, we're tackling the Marvel Legends Spider-Man the Animated Series Smythe versus Peter Parker. And don't you worry, I'll also be including plenty of head swaps. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Starting off with the packaging, and we have that windowless VHS style box. It's actually been one of my favorite parts of this collection. Lining them up, it really does look like a bunch of videos. Especially how the Marvel Legends logo looks like the old VHS logo. That said, if you want to stack them like this, it's pretty cool too. This one, of course, has Peter and Smythe, unless we forget Peter's camera, and then on the back we get renders in the style of the old animated series figures. I've kept all the boxes so far, and I'm going to be keeping this one too. And for packaging, I'm giving Smythe versus Peter 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, and Peter comes to 6 1/4 inches, whereas Flat Top comes to 6 1/2. I've been wanting an animated style Peter Parker for years, and it's wonderful to finally see it in plastic form. Personally, I was hoping for the white and turquoise polo shirt, but this is a very accurate design. The great thing about this is if they wanted to recycle it for other t-shirt wearing characters, they could. I'm not 100%, but I think that the sleeves might be reused from Ulysses Claw. At the very least, J. Jonah Jameson has them, and I'm sure these pinless pants are reused from something, I just don't know what. The hands are definitely reused from the retro card Peter Parker, as are the sneakers. This time they've been cast in gray with a little lavender at the bottom. I'm not sure whether or not the watch is new, but it looks really good. You can see the little buttons and knobs on the sides. The best part though is the head sculpt. Hasbro did a great job of translating the animated series into action figure form. Of course, that big swoopy hair is unmistakable, and I'm really excited to see how this is going to look on various Spider-Man bodies. Shifting over to Smythe, and I'm fairly confident this is a completely new sculpt. They might have used a different body as a starting point, I'm not sure, but there has to be new sculpting to accommodate these shoulder pincers, as well as these forearm fins. While we're here, I'm very pleasantly surprised to see that they added paint detail to that. Additionally, everything from the waist down has a unique texture. There's also fins sticking out of the calves, and these very menacing two-toed feet. I do like that little pop of silver in the toes, but of course the best part is this head. A man of his time, Smythe is rocking a flat-top mullet, handful of spaghetti up top, and party in the back. The eyes are nice and eerie, and there's a bit of extra shading in the face. If you saw my old wish list video, you'd know Smythe was on it. Finally having one in hand, and it's even better than I imagined it would be. For presentation, I'm happy to give Peter and Smythe 1 whole point. Moving on to posability, and the range in these two are very similar, but there is one difference I do think fans aren't going to like. From the top, and Smythe's head's on a ball joint and a disc swivel. Peter's head, however, is on a dumbbell joint. I know it's hard to see because of the pincers, but Smythe can actually look up quite a bit. Peter gets an okay amount of up, but it's hardly amazing. And compared to Peter, Smythe can really bury the chin. They do both get a little bit of tilt, and of course side to side. Moving down, Smythe can raise his arm 90 degrees, whereas Peter can definitely raise his arm significantly higher. Both figures have bicep swivel, but whereas Smythe has pinless double jointed elbows, Peter only has single jointed swivel that don't even get 90 degrees. He also has this weird smudge. Obviously he's in Peter mode right now and not Spidey, but still I can see the lack of range being very vexing to some. Moving all the way down the arm, they have swivel hinge wrists, with Peter at least being able to hide the joint on his left hand. Shifting to the torso, and each figure has an ab crunch and a waist swivel. They can arch back this far with Peter being hindered by the jacket, also arching Smythe back, and unfortunately the detail disappears. They can, however, hunch forward this far, which is equally awesome between the two. No tilt of course, but both figures can twist, and then below the waist each one has ball jointed hips. Smythe can kick 90 with Peter just under. They do however have fairly equivalent splits. Moving down the leg, and both have thigh cut, pinless double jointed knees, and ankles that can hinge, and like collector's excitement for Peter Parker once they see the articulation, pivot. Short of butterfly joint, Smythe has all the articulation I could need, so for posability I'm giving him 1 whole point. Peter on the other hand looks great, but is a bit too limited, so for posability I'm giving him 1/2 a point. Moving on to playability, and while Smythe is preloaded with these fists, he also comes with a pair of open hands. It's not much, but it's something. Peter comes with his very important camera. I do like that little bit of purple for the lens. Not sure how he sees through it though. The most important thing is he can hold it. Additionally, Peter has a pair of thwippy hands, and Honestly, I'm a little confused. Without having any web shooters on him, what exactly is this supposed to accomplish? I guess if you wanted to, you could pretend he has one hidden inside the watch. I appreciate the gesture, no pun intended, but for an out-of-costume Peter Parker, I think that fists and wall crawlers probably would have made more sense. Fortunately, playability is more than accessories, it's also about how well your figure plays with others. Starting with civilians, and here we have Dear Aunt May and Mary Jane Watson. It is so awesome to finally have a proper animated Peter and MJ. That said, if you're more interested in a comic version, here's the one from the Toys R Us 2-pack, but for some other Peter Parker love interests, and here we have the Black Cat, Gwen Stacy, and while not a love interest, here we have another fiery redhead, Firestar from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. For one more Spider-Man civilian, and here we have J. Jonah Jameson, veering squarely into some Spider-Man animated series villains, however, and here we have Dr. Octopus. Next up is the cel-shaded retro card Venom, and the animated series Green Goblin with his very fetching green "don't even think about it" man bag. If, however, all you have is the retro card Green Goblin, here you go. Similarly, I don't have the animated series Carnage, but this comic style one works great. And then for just a couple of other comic style villains, here we have the Sandman, the Prowler, and the retro card Mysterio. For a couple of allies who appeared on the animated series, and here we have Daredevil, Blade the Vampire Hunter, Captain America, and Wolverine. Between Hasbro's Spider-Man animated series and X-Men 97, what a time to be a collector. Lastly, for a couple of other animated series specific characters, and here we have the Toy Biz version of Hobgoblin, and of particular importance to Smythe, the Kingpin. And then as long as we're here for just one more large-scale Spidey villain, here's the Rhino. But for a relative scale comparison, here's Peter and Smythe with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here they are with Stealth Iron Man. You know, I've been known to rock a mullet myself. Really? Well, isn't that fascinating? Mullet bros for life! Of course, I'm sure what you're the most excited for are head swaps. First up, and here we have the original release Pizza Spidey. I picture animated Spider-Man to be a bit thicker than this, but it does work. If Pizza Spidey's the only Spidey you own, it's a great one to have, but admittedly I'm a little bit more excited to see how he looks on later releases. Releases like the retro card. Proportion-wise, this is a lot closer to what I picture, and between the colors, the smaller logo, and the smaller, more tightly packed webs, it's actually my favorite Spider-Man. Additionally, the notch in the back of the neck really helps with looking up. The only thing holding retro card back is the lack of pinless joints and toe articulation, bringing us to Renew Your Vows. Admittedly, the spaced out webs look a lot closer to the cartoon, and if you wanted to stand in for the animated series, I think this might be the body for you. The body that Hasbro used, however, was this one from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Although I think I prefer Renew Your Vows, I totally get why they used this figure. The musculature isn't quite as clearly defined, but the proportions are still very good. Next to Mary Jane, he isn't too short. Hopefully, Hasbro makes a non-cell shaded version available for those who missed out on the Walmart one, preferably in a 2-pack with Chameleon. Since it played a role on the animated series, here we have 6-armed Spider-Man. The Peter head looks as good as anything can look on this figure. This is the new version that came with Morbius. They fixed the torso articulation by adding a diaphragm joint, but literally nothing else. For another one I'm sure you're very curious about, and here we have the black costume. This is the retro card version and not the cel-shaded 2-pack one, but I'm honestly very happy with this. And this combination is a great companion piece with Shocker! Seriously, this should have been the 2-pack. For one last Spidey head swap though, and here we have the retro card Peter Parker. This one looks pretty good. The head maybe sits a bit short, but it's alright. Overall, I'm pretty happy, mainly because it reminds me of this Toy Biz Peter Parker from when I was a kid. That said, for one final head swap, and here we have Smythe with Ravager Thor from Love and Thunder. Why? To make our own Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China, of course. I can't possibly be the only person who thought this when I saw this head, and if you thought of it too, this head swap's for you. Seriously, it's all on the wrist. Dad, is that you? Despite fumbling the ball with some accessories, these are still fun figures that scale well and have lots of head swap potential. So for playability, I'm giving Peter and Smythe 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. This set is a fan channel exclusive and retails for $53. If you saw my retro card Spider-Man wish list, you'd know that Smythe was number 3, but as much as I like these figures, I can't say that they're worth $26.50 a pop. For price, I'm giving this set half a point, giving Peter a total of 4 out of 5, and Smythe a total of 4.5 out of 5. Are you collecting this series, and if so, who do you hope they make next? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, check out one of these. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.